Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tibbs, and you're watching Bread Solo Cooking. Now, this is my TV show, or my internet show, or whatever iCarly pioneered in the early 2000s. All about cooking for college students, using ingredients that are simple, recipes that have few ingredients, and techniques that, well, really are, I guess, old, and they sometimes can be more complex, but they don't need a lot of tools, and these are things you can do with your hands. So if we're going to be making bread, we're going to be kneading the dough. If it's going to be rolling something, you're going to use like anything you can find instead of a rolling pin. Just little things like that, and you'll everyone will see how it goes. Like I'm using a pan to cook ramen, but the whole point is that all this is supposed to be college-friendly food for inside dorms and cooking with minimal items on a cheap budget. As a result, the first month of the show will be all ramen themed. Now, we're not just going to be making noodles with ramen because that would be boring. The first few dishes are, in fact, noodle dishes with ramen. But the cool thing about ramen is that it's basically 100% starch. And as such, you can use it as flour. I guess, yeah, mainly just flour and other things that you would coat stuff with, but that's also flour. So really, yeah, you can use it as flour. And later on, you're going to need the spice grinder, but that's something really easy to find, and you can get it on Goodwill, or if you want, you can pulverize it yourself, even though it takes way longer. I'm not going to do it live because that would be absurd. But that's later. Ramen's a cool thing because it's quick, it's easy, and there are a lot of varieties that you can add to it to spice it up. Not only that, you can use it as a side dish to a main dish. There's several different kinds of ramen, varying on the level from cheapness to more expensive. This is my favorite ramen that they have. It's $10 for a 16-pack, which means that it's not the cheapest ramen out there, but it has a lot of calories in it, which is good if you're trying to survive. And it has just a thicker noodle, which is much more high quality than either Top Ramen or Sapporo Ramen Ichiban. Yeah, Sapporo Ichiban Ramen or whatever. That I've had before, that I used actually last night when I was creating these recipes and testing the stream. So from there, I should talk about the show and how it's going to essentially work. We're going to have this beginning part where it's going to be me talking with you, America, and/or the camera, and/or my friends, because let's face it, you guys are pretty much the only one watching this. And we're going to talk about the recipes we're going to do for the day, any techniques or items. If occasionally I'll give a history of the dish for a couple of the dishes that I have planned. Tuesdays are going to be the more simple days. Thursdays are going to be more complex. It's Tuesdays and Thursdays every night at 9. The VODs will be up on Wednesday and Friday, respectively, hopefully around noon. It depends on how long I have to edit and how tired I am after doing the videos and cleaning up all the dishes. After the intro part, we're going to move into the middle part, which is just cooking. I'll explain all the processes I'm doing. I will try and get things so you can see them very, very clearly. And then from there, cooking goes into eating and talking about the dish and what I did wrong, what I could do better. This is all live, and I'm not a great chef. I'm at best an okay one, so doing it all live ensures that there's going to be some mistakes that happen, whether it's on these first few dishes or on the next few. Like last night when I tried these dishes, I definitely could have used more peanut butter in one of them, but we'll get into that later. But anyways, so there's going to be mistakes. I think that the mistakes are good. I think the mistakes show people how not to make mistakes, and that's why I like to include them. I also think it's funny when you have to eat this weird dish that like turned out completely different than how you expected it, like crunchy gnocchi or something like that. That just like it's funny. Other than that, it's I guess really time to start talking about what we're going to be cooking today, which is going to be focusing on spicing up your basic ramen. Now, we're only going to be focusing on 2 recipes today. One of them is my favorite. The other one is a better offshoot, but it has more variations that you can take into this. The most common things you'll see when you're talking about spicing up ramen is adding vegetables, meats, sesame oil, just little things to the sauce. Um, I chose these recipes because I feel like it also creates like more of a new dish than just your typical ramen. Um, and the first recipe we'll be using is ramen pad thai, which is not really pad thai, but that's kind of the best way to describe it because it has like a peanut buttery taste and it has egg in it. And if you wanted to, you could add chicken, but I don't have that kind of money. So I'm just sticking with peanut butter, Safeway Signature Select, because again, I don't have that kind of money. And then, not that, eggs, and then Sriracha sauce. Sriracha sauce is going to be used in both dishes. Very, very common thing. Everyone should have that in their kitchen. And then sesame oil. Now, sesame oil is basically completely optional. I add it in because I do feel like I can taste it in this dish. And a lot of people like to add it to their normal ramen just to make it taste better. Some people, the other people that I've served this dish to, don't actually enjoy or not enjoy, but they don't notice the sesame oil. I'm like, does it taste extra sesame? And they're like, dude, you put a whole bunch of ramen spice and sriracha in there and peanut. Like, there's no way it's gonna taste sesame-y. Sesame-y. Yeah, nice. Sesame-y. But, and so, that's up to you guys. I added in because mainly I just had it. I cook a lot of Asian food, so I have all those kinds of weird oils. And then from there, that actually caps off the pad thai ramen. We're going to be doing a soft-boiled method with our eggs instead of a scrambled one, but I'll go into more detail with that when I'm cooking the dish itself. For our second dish, it's going to be a chili lime ramen, which is going to be using sour cream. I know, it sounds really, really weird, but that's why I like this dish. Lime juice. Ideally fresh, but if you can, this is what I had because I used my last lime last night. And then, surprise, sriracha. I try to do an overlap with my ingredients. A lot of the things you see here are going to be used later on in the month as they go on. But other than that, that's really that's all those ingredients for the chili lime one. You can add variations to it, but that one's cool because it cooks using a different method and it's technically brothless. You can make it with broth, which is how I typically prefer it, but today I'm going to do brothless because I did broth last night and I've been eating ramen for like a week straight trying to get these right, and if I eat any more ramen, I think I'm going to explode. But in any case, that's more of a problem for me and less of a problem for you guys. So with that being said, let's launch into the cooking, and I'll tell you about some of the gear I'm using and go through the recipes and measurements that I'm using. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Ooh, yeah, check out my back. Yep, that's what I'm talking about. Speaking of back, welcome to the cooking station. Let me talk about what we're using here just as kind of materials and supplies. Red Solo cups. I'm going to be doing all of my measuring based on a red Solo cup. I will use the marks on the inside such as the spelling on the side, so I'll say about halfway up to the O. Sometimes I'll say about all the way up to the L, or maybe one full cup. Mainly because I acknowledge that people just don't have measuring cups, but hopefully if you're in college and you're living on your own, you have a whole bunch of red Solo cups around. I would hope so. For, you know, holding water and stuff. Other than that, we really don't need the knife today, and we're just going to be using my handy-dandy cooking chopsticks, a pan, because I don't have a cast iron pot, and then some oven mitts. Now, I'm going to take you guys over to the stove cam. Now, or not the stove cam. So this is an induction burner. I like using induction, or I chose induction for this. I don't actually like using it that much. I prefer flame, but flames are no bueno, or fuego is no bueno for housing staff and living in a dorm and anything like that. If they catch you with a bunch of exploding butane in your dorm and a burner, they're going to get really upset with you. The cool thing about an induction stove is that they heat really quickly, they're accurate, and they're safe because it actually will not function properly unless it senses a pan. So it's going to beep a lot and it's going to get really, really annoying. I'm actually just going to turn it off. But it won't even start heating up until it senses that there is a pan that works with induction, which means it has to be magnetic. If you want to see if your pans work with induction, you have to hit it with a magnet. If it sticks, then it's good. It should work. If the bottom of it sticks, so like some pans will have like a ceramic outside and just a metallic bottom. If it sticks to the bottom, it will work there too. But we're actually going to go ahead and get started with this. Go to temperature, put it on the fave number, and then we're going to add 2 red Solo cups full of water. Now, when I say full, I mean just past or just at the arches of the cup, like right there. I don't know if you can see that a little bit better now. You can't really see it at all. Doesn't really matter. But, you know, it's not exactly rocket science. This part doesn't really matter all that much. That being said, in other dishes we do later on, it will matter greatly. The cool part about ramen is it actually soaks up the water around it, unlike traditional pasta, since it's already cooked and just been dehydrated in a sense, which is really, really cool and allows you to do a lot of cool things with it cooking-wise. It also gives it that ability to use as a breading, like I talked about earlier, but it also makes it so that you don't really need a lot of water, or you can just play around with the water because it will soak in as much as you need, and then if you want to keep it in the broth, you can keep it in the broth, or you can remove the rest. It really gives you a lot of fair play there. Other things than that, no, we're basically just waiting for this to heat up. While it's waiting for it to heat up, we go ahead and measure out how much peanut butter we're going to be using. The proper recipe calls for a spoonful. Last night I used a spoonful, and to be perfectly honest, it wasn't enough. And this looks like a bigger spoonful than honestly I used last night, but I'm going to put a spoonful and a half, just because I'm a peanut butter-aholic. I love peanut butter. I made this dish one time, and I used too much peanut butter, and I was able to eat it really, really easily. I mean, it was pretty gross for most people, but I could eat it. Yeah, there we go. Ooh, that money shot. Ooh, jiggle it. Yeah, look at that. How you know it's fresh. It's not fresh. Screw this back on. Wash. Nope. We actually don't need to wash this one up yet. Bam. Okay. And the next thing we need is our egg. Now, one of my favorite parts about the Pad Thai ramen dish is that there are 2 ways of going about it. You can do the egg in a soft-boiled style, or you can do it in a more scrambled style. If you're doing it in a more scrambled style, I recommend using 2 eggs instead of just 1 egg. I'm going to be doing the soft-boiled style because I like the money shot of the yolk spilling out of the egg all into the soup, and it helps the sauce get creamier, and hopefully since we use more peanut butter, the sauce is going to be much, much creamier today, and that will be really, really cool because I just haven't had it with a nice creamy sauce in a while. But we aren't going to be doing the scrambling. If you want to scramble it and you want to do it the more classic traditional Pad Thai style instead of with a soft-boiled egg, you just need to beat your eggs before you put them in there and then add them in little douses, like little pockets. We're just going to drop this in nice and easy over the top, but I'm just going to crack this guy. Again, I'm not a good chef, so I can't do the one-handed crack. Eggshells? No? Ooh, yeah. Now see, I probably actually shouldn't have gotten that last bit. The weird thing about soft boiling eggs is that the more fresh they are, the more they're all going to be one cohesive unit. So when you soft boil eggs, to avoid getting those like white, basically kind of tough pieces of egg white that fall around your pan, you can if you get newer, fresher eggs like from a farmer's market or something, they will be much more together. There's a way out with streaming it through like a mesh sieve or whatever that you can get rid of those pieces, which is a great way, but to be honest, I don't care that much. I'm not about that. I'm trying to get cheap eggs, not exactly the freshest eggs. Not to disrespect any farmers markets, more power to the organic people, but I ain't got that kind of money. Going back to the stove cam. Come on. Yeah, look at that. The water is starting to boil. And now is the part where I should probably address the fact that I'm using a cast iron pan to cook ramen with. Boiling water in a cast iron pan generally won't hurt the pan that much, as long as it's an old pan. My mom's had this pan for a really long time, so there's multiple layers of seasoning built up around it, and it's not that acidic compared to some other things, such as like tomato sauce that you could be making in there that would also get up the seasoning, so the nice layers of a cast iron pan. So don't freak out, any cast iron purists, or do freak out. I honestly don't really care, because I'm just trying to make some good meals on the cheap. You know, that's not quite a rolling, but you know what? It looks like a rolling boil on your guys' screen. So I'm just going to go ahead and add it. Ooh, yeah. Nice. Let's get these, nice part about Shin Ramen comes with a little vegetable packet. I don't really think it does anything to the flavor, but it definitely helps with the color and general look appeal of the dish. Like, oh yeah, I put some green onions and pepper in there, yeah. Even though, you know, green onions and peppers, that's extra dollars, right? Oh, look, there's some carrot in there too. Now, this is the money, the flavoring packet. We're going to use them for both these dishes. Let me just add this in. Now, this flavoring packet is a spicy flavoring packet, so technically you wouldn't need to essentially add Sriracha sauce to this dish. I'm doing it because I like my food really spicy, and as much as I love the flavoring packet, I think we can crank it up a notch. I'm all about cranking it up a notch if I can, on a budget, of course. Oh yeah, and so these noodles are going to need to cook for around 5 minutes. Once they actually start dispersing out and being able to be plied apart, I'm going to create a small cradle in the middle, and then I'm going to drop my egg on the inside of that. Yeah, which is going to happen any second now. Ooh yeah, see, it's starting to get there. This is like watching paint dry, but not really. Oh, you know what I can do now? Chopsticks like that. You can add your sesame oil now. It just helps for the oil to boil. Yeah, it does help for the oil to boil, or the water to boil, and get those flavors actually in there. You don't want to overdo it on the sesame oil. Just a small, like, little dripping that I added is totally fine. Like, the less the better. Like, it's generally really, really powerful oil. I've heard of some people, like, frying things in sesame oil. I'm like, wow, that's only going to taste like sesame. But yeah, these noodles are coming apart. I'm liking this. So I don't like my noodles like the slurpiest of noodles, so I generally don't try and keep my ramen in for the full 5 minutes when I'm cooking it. With the egg, it's going to be, I'm actually going to take it out a little bit earlier this time. But my thing is that if you put them in the water too long, past the recommended time typically, they start to get really soggy and really slurpy. Which, ramen's supposed to be slurped. In Japan, it's impolite not to slurp your ramen because it means it's not good enough to eat quickly. I'm going to go ahead and add the egg here. But I mean, as I was saying before I add this egg, I don't really enjoy super jello-y and super slurpy noodles. I like a little bit of bounce and some kind of like, I don't know the right word I'm describing. I don't want to say crunchiness, but tough noodles. Like OG noodles. Yeah, we're going to turn this down a little bit. Then I'm just going to plop this guy right in there. Ooh, that's kind of cool. It just stopped boiling like that. Got those wisps forming. Now see, this is sort of the type of stuff that would be left off of a more complete egg. Or a more fresh egg. I'm sorry. I mean, this egg's perfectly complete. I didn't mean to imply that you weren't complete egg. Or you will be complete when I put you in my belly. But, in any case, the hard part of this next thing is not... It's better to overdo it with the egg than underdo it if you're going for that money shot thing, because you can puncture the egg really quickly before, and then all the yolk's gone, and then you lose that super cool effect of
being like, yeah, you know, I was able to soft boil an egg. Uh-oh, did I do it? Did I do it? Did I do it? No. Ooh. Get back in the middle here, egg. Ooh, yeah. Okay. And now that that's in there, I'm going to go ahead and blast it with the sriracha. I just do a couple of rings around it. I'm going to hit it with the peanut butter. In my earlier recipes, I would do this all before I put the egg in, but I thought it had a weird effect with kind of how the egg cooked. So now I'm just shooting from the hip, like I always do, you know me. Got that. What was the perk in COD? See, this is why I need access to the chat while I'm streaming and while I'm recording, is that I need to figure out what these Call of Duty perks are that I'm referencing that makes hipfire accuracy increase, because you know I had that on when I was running around the map with the umping kids. Ump 45. It's my gamer tag. Not really. But this is looking dissolved. That egg's definitely done. It's looking creamy. It's looking thick with 5 C's. So we're gonna go ahead and take this off. Now I don't have a sink can, because the sink's not a very glamorous place. Come here, hot stove thing. Oh, yeah. Uh-oh, don't shut off. Let me clean this up a little bit. Got a little messy during the straining process because, you know, I don't use a strainer. So it's not so much as a straining process so much as it all is dumping all of the contents into one super small bowl and letting the excess water spill out over the edge. Personally, I'm fine with that. But then again, I'm fine with a lot of things. Thank you, paper towels. No! The stove turned off, so now you can actually kind of hear me okay. What a travesty. Let me bring this over here. Move this stuff out of the way. I'll temporarily slide this. Ooh, I can put this on here. Oh, ho, ho. Bring this over here. Bam. Hit it with that transition. Alright. So this is what our pad Thai ramen looks like. Now, I'm going to do my best to find the egg so you can get the money shot in with that yolk spilling out. Oh, I think I found it. Hey there. Oh, no. Did I break it? I didn't. But I think I might have cooked it too much through. Let's see if we're going to get that runniness. It's going to... Yeah. Oh. Oh, hello. Oh, yeah. It's not exactly spilling out. I definitely cooked it a little on the bottom too much. But if you can see in there. Can you? Nah. Let me pick this bad boy up. Oh, oh. Slippery egg. You can't really make it out well because of the steam, but that's all yolk. I'm just going to drop that face down in the water. Get that out, break that up. That's what I'm about. As I'm looking at this sort of medium well soft boiled egg is probably the best of both worlds because you get a little bit of that creamy yolkness, but also the bigger egg bits to actually eat. That's my least favorite thing about the soft boiled egg method when you just have a good yolk, is that it just breaks apart and like then all your eggs gone. You're just like, oh, well, that was super helpful. But in any case, I'm going to set this aside. Oh. Transition back on over. Put this here. Oh no, my pan isn't cleaned. Quickly. Alright. That's pretty dirty still. I'm gonna wipe it down quickly. Just, you know. Last night it was really, really dirty. Can't be playing that this night. I know a couple of my friends are having heart attacks. Actually, mainly just one. Man, I hope he doesn't get upset at me. In any case, we're going to go back up. I'm going to put the temperature on. Again, 2 cups of water. Just over the arches of the cup. Okie doke. Ooh, now I gotta clean off my spoon. Because, I mean, how many college students really have more than one spoon? Not me, that's for damn sure. If anyone else comes over, they get the fork. And we can share the knife. I put egg in here. That's what used to be in there. I'm gonna not put sour cream in there. But I'm gonna use the water one for sour cream because there's no water left in there. And I'm trying not to destroy the world by using all these red Solo cups. It will probably happen anyways. But I mean, Al Gore would be probably pretty steamed with me. So we're gonna add that. Now, I'm actually using a smaller amount, to be honest, it was more like 3/4 of one of my larger tablespoons, or one of my larger spoons. If you're looking for a measurement on the Solo cup, you want to basically do it in a unevenly, you want to bring it up to the O. Evenly, you want it just under the O. For peanut butter, you're just going to have to go with what you want. For the ramen, because like I love peanut butter. I wanted it to be really peanut buttery. Some people don't like peanut butter, don't jive with peanut butter. But let me taste this dish. Speaking of that, how is this guy? Looking pretty good. Very hot. It's smelling a lot more peanut buttery than last night. Ah! And it is still too hot to eat. Wow. That is too hot to eat. Oh no. Anyways, let's go back to prepping the soup. We're prepping the ramen. Okay. So for this, we're actually gonna take it and we're not gonna dump it in the water. We're going to dump it in. Yeah, that's right. Our sour cream. Now, you're going to want to mix this up, and the traditional recipe uses the chicken flavored sour cream, which I think is kind of important to the whole lime thing that they have going, is that like, oh, it's supposed to taste like, you know, chicken, like a Latin American or Spanish chicken lime dish, which it does actually end up doing. Tastes like almost some like weird, like, oh, if Taco Bell was making ramen, like that's what they would put in it, and it makes it really, really delicious to add any chicken that you're making, especially if you're making like a Peruvian style chicken. You can add that into it. I am out of chicken ramen, mainly because I was too lazy to go to the store this morning after making it last night. This gas is expensive. It's like $2.99 everywhere, and I don't have that kind of money. So, I'm using the spicy ramen. Now, what this is mainly going to turn it into is going to be less of a Spanish dish and way more of a, I don't even know, spicy Korean dish, which is kind of what this is. So there's a little more overlap. I apologize for that. I was trying to show you how different these two dishes can be. That being said, I can still tell you about the cool variations of this dish. If you want to make more of a beef stroganoff thing, you can chop up some ground beef in there. Add some beef flavoring ramen packets to that instead of the chicken. And then from there, add a little bit of Worcestershire sauce. And if you're feeling bold, a can of cream and mushroom soup. But that's getting a little pricey. I mean, those soup cans we will go into next month. But even still, you want to make sure this is all nice and mixed up. It would be way easier to do this in some sort of blender or with like a fork, but I don't really have a fork. I'm just using the spoon and chopsticks today. Definitely easier in a bowl too. Solo cup's pretty bad for mixing, but hey, who has more than 2 bowls? One for you and one for your significant other or your dog. Either way. Actually, you can't have, you know what, you can have dogs on campuses now. 2018 is a pretty crazy time. So that's looking good and mixed. How is this water looking? Let's see, you guys can see it. That's getting there. That's getting there. I think that's getting there. I'm gonna move this a little bit over, but that's getting there. Cool beans. Alrighty. Done. Apparently that's bad luck in Japan. Not in Japan. Unfortunately. Actually, I would like to visit Japan. I could maybe live there, but not for my entire life. Again, that really just makes the dish look better. The flavoring packets, I'll switch to this shot. So now we're cooking. Ooh, I should clean as I cook and throw away all the stuff I'm not using. Be proactive while that boils. Now, if you're doing the spicy version of this, the more Asian creamy noodles, you can add sesame oil to it. I personally am not for any real reason other than the fact that I don't, I want to keep this more like the Latin American version as much as possible. Not that it is even really Latin. It's more of just a horrible Frankenstein of a bunch of countries, just like the US of A, the place of my love. Now that's coming apart. I just realized I'm gonna drain out all these pieces of vegetables. Oh no, so it's not really gonna do anything, is it? It's the way she goes, though. It's the way she goes. Alright. Chopping it up. That's what I like to see. Getting loose. Now, these ones I'm going to cook for, I think, a little bit longer. Because they're not going to have a broth to sit in this time, so they're not going to become more and more elasticy like the pad Thai noodles are. Speaking of which, how are these bad boys? That's it right there. Not gonna lie. These are better than the pad Thai noodles I made last night. Perfect amount of peanut butter, perfect amount of sriracha. If I got the egg better, it would have been a lot better. But I'll save it for the further diagnosis. Ooh. Let me see if I can get some egg in here. Get this going. Oh yeah, I can. That's what I'm talking about.
Mmm. See? Wow. That's the problem with ramen, is that it's delicious. And, like, you shouldn't eat it for every meal, but you damn well can. I mean, not stomach-wise. If you do eat ramen for too long, for too many meals in a row, it will backfire. Believe me on that. But just spice it up right every once in a while with, like, some vegetables and meat. Have it. You can even use it as a side. We'll talk about that more later. Let's go back to the cooking can. Okie doke. All coming up. You know, maybe some vegetables will stick in these noodles. Maybe we'll get that kind of cool color. All right. I'm gonna measure out our lime juice just because we have time. Honestly, I would fill it up to just about the rivet in the cup. I know that sounds really stupid, and on other cups that aren't Solo cups, which eventually I will switch to because who has the money for authentic brand name Solos every damn day? I certainly don't. But you just want to, I mean, it's really only a pinch. You're going to add this to it last after you mix it up. I'm going to go ahead and take this off the stove. And now, for this one, you're not going to directly pour it into a bowl. You're going to want to keep it in the pan, just slightly drain it. Where are my chopsticks at? Oh. It's okay if you lose some noodles. Because you don't have a strainer. I'm not going to tell anyone. You don't have to tell anyone. I could get a strainer from upstairs because I'm at my mom's house, but that's just not the way I roll. I strive for authenticity. And a college dorm room really wouldn't have a strainer in it. Because realistically, if you have the cooktop, you can do all of this stuff inside your bathroom. It even has like a ventilation fan, and like if the cops do get called for some reason because you screwed up and you burned something, it looks a lot better than engaging in illegal activities in your dorm, which I'm sure everyone in school doesn't appreciate and is illegal and morally wrong guys. But you're just going to want to add this in. There's no rhyme or reason to it. I lost a lot in the horrible way that I'm scraping it out with chopsticks. Mixing that up. Let me go back to the cooking cam so you can see how this is turning out. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. All around there. I'm gonna turn this back on the low. Alright, that's what I'm talking about. That nice coverage. You want all those noodles just looking like they've been sauced. You've been sauced. I should get a stamp that says sauced. Start putting it on my clothes because I'm so icy. And then we're going to want to add the lime juice. Ooh, starting to boil a little. Now lime juice is acidic, and if we used a lot more lime juice, it would be pretty bad for the pan.
Now, I'm going to taste this before judging to add the sriracha to it. Mainly because I don't want to waste this food and I'm going to have to eat it. And although you would add sriracha to the traditional, the chili lime version of this with the chicken powder instead of the spicy powder, if I'm going to eat this, I would ideally want it to not be the spiciest thing in the entire world. I'm going to try it though. Woo. Just as I suspected, doesn't need the sriracha at all. It's plenty spicy. Whew, that is tasty. I actually might like that one better than the chicken ramen. I mean, I'm just a sucker for that Shinyu ramen flavor packet though. I could eat that stuff straight.
Okay. Whew. Let me transition back over. Nope. Where are we? There we are. Okay. So now we're going to take this off. Where's my other mitt? Bowl. Get in the sink. Hello. Hello. There we go. Oh, you know what? I can put these in the sink too. Because I'm going to be eating with those later. Because who can afford more than one pair of chopsticks? Not this guy. Yeah. Ooh. That's what I'm talking about. Okay. All right. Cool. All right, we have our completed dishes. Now we're gonna move over to the tasting. Let me hydrate first. We're gonna move over to the tasting section in the third part of the show, the final part. Let me load this guy up. I'm gonna go audio dark. Ooh, and we are back. Okay. Let me see if I can get that a little bit better. Yeah, see the top, some space between. If I stand up straight, it kind of hits it anyways. It's fine. All right. Back to the pad Thai ramen. Again, this is my favorite kind of ramen to make. I actually rarely make ramen not doing this method anymore. Mainly just because if I'm going to be having ramen, why not have this super simple, super easy, better way to make it 100% better. I'm a huge fan of a lot of peanut butter in it. The more you add, to be honest, the creamier it gets until it gets to the point where you're just straight up eating peanut butter, which then that's not all that bad either. I wish I was getting more of the egg. If I had to do this later, I'd do a scrambled one, but for the show, I want to do the more technical one, the one that actually might take some skill or some interesting technique that someone actually might learn something from, rather than scrambling eggs, which I hope everyone knows how to do. Let me try another bite of this. There we go. All right. Oh no! All over my shorts! No! This is what happens. But who cares? So yeah, that's how it looks. Trying not to have the same thing happen. You can't really see any of the egg in there. There's some. I just brought some to the surface. It looks much more appetizing than I guess traditional ramen, or at least to me. But yeah, let's move on to the chili lime one. Oh, man, that is doing the weirdest thing to my pants right now. Good God. Like the peanut butter in it's like firming up. I think at the end of the show I'm going to show everybody. It should be pretty gross by then. Alright, now this is how it almost looks exactly the same but without broth because of this weird lighting and the orange coloration of the flavor packet. That doesn't happen with the chicken one so much because there's only a little bit of sriracha left in it instead of an entire packet of red spices. Definitely a real different flavor compared to the other one. If you don't like sour cream, you're not going to like this. I'm a huge fan of sour cream, all kinds of cream, including Maxo cream. He's an amazing artist. But, yeah, it has a really different flavor. I could have added more lime juice to this, and I think some crushed black pepper, and it would have been amazing. So if I was doing that, that's what I would have added to it. Mm. Mm-mm-mm. But I love the effect of coating the cooked noodles in the sauce after, or in the cream after, because it coats the noodles individually so well, and I think that's something that really only happens with ramen that you don't really get with spaghetti. And it has to do, I believe, with that thirst, that it locks things into it because it's always looking for more moisture, and if you devoid it of moisture, it's going to try and lock in that cream. Now that probably is 100% scientifically wrong, but that's what I'm going to go with because it sounds good in my head, and I'm not a scientist, nor am I a professional chef. So you really shouldn't be listening to me at all. But for not being a professional chef, I cooked it up tasty today. I'll switch back to the pad thai when I'm about it. Oh my goodness. The water palate cleanser. Okay, here we go. I love this one. This one's great. Also, something fun you can do with this one, if you don't like the broth aspect, if you want the kind of more bouncy, firmer noodle taste that the other one has, you can mix the peanut butter in without the water. I advise putting in a little bit of water on it, mainly because it actually will help the peanut butter just spread around the noodles better instead of turning the noodles into one ball of peanut butter covered in noodles. Oh, you could deep fry that. That'd be really good. But in any case, it makes it a better kind of saucier thing, but do that at your own risk because that's kind of defeats the whole purpose of adding them in after they're cooked. And you're going to want to make sure you still cook the noodles inside the ramen broth with the packet, or else you're going to lose a lot of that heat that gets kind of coated in the noodles. You could make up for it with more sriracha if you wanted to. After this, you could even add more peanut butter and sriracha because it's basically the same thing either way, depending on when you add everything in. Man, my shorts. Alright, well, that sums up our first episode. This should have happened on Tuesday, the 5th of June at 9 p.m., but instead it's happening Wednesday, the 6th of June at around 12 p.m. because I forgot to hit record. Yeah, that happened. So this is not necessarily live. It was all done in one take, but it's not the official version, so it's not what the show's. The show is going to be live streamed every Tuesday and Thursday at 9 p.m. You can check the video description for more information. Other than that, I'm actually going to go change my shorts and then eat them because this sauce is amazing. See you guys next time.